Elena Voss had fired 7 nannies in 4 months. Not because she was cruel, she was simply impossible to please. And her daughter Sophie was worse. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Also, tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? At 8 years old, Sophie had learned to be silent. She sat in corners of the vast penthouse, drew pictures no one looked at, and flinched when strangers tried to hold her hand. Therapists called it emotional withdrawal. Elena called it exhaustion, hers and Sophie's both. After her husband Marcus died in a car accident 2 years ago, something inside both of them had simply locked shut. Elena buried herself in boardrooms and billion-dollar decisions. Sophie buried herself in crayons and quiet. The penthouse was always spotless, always cold, and never once felt like home. It was Marcus Hale who first noticed the little girl's picture taped to the hallway wall, a wobbly drawing of a man, a woman, and a child holding hands under a yellow sun. He noticed it because it was the only warm thing in the entire 42nd floor. Marcus was not a nanny. He was not a counselor, not a life coach, not a professionally certified childhood development specialist. He was the night janitor, hired 3 weeks ago by the building's management company to clean the corporate suites and residential floors after hours. He wore faded grey coveralls, carried a mop that had seen better decades, and smiled at everyone whether they smiled back or not. He had a 9-year-old son named Danny at home, being watched by his elderly neighbor, Mrs. Patel, while Marcus worked double shifts to cover Danny's school fees and the rent on their 2-room apartment. He had no savings, no safety net, and no complaints, or at least he never voiced them. The first time Sophie spoke to him, it was 11:30 at night. She had wandered out of her room in pajamas, eyes wide and dry the way children's eyes get when they've forgotten how to cry. Marcus was mopping near the kitchen, and he simply looked at her and said, "You like stars?" She stared. He pointed to the floor-to-ceiling window where New York glittered below them. "My son says the city looks like someone spilled a jar of fireflies." Sophie walked to the window. She stood there a long time. Then she said, "My dad used to say that too." Marcus did not make a big moment of it. He just nodded and kept mopping. "Smart man, your dad." That was it. That was the beginning. Every night after that, Sophie found a reason to be awake at 11:30. Marcus would be there. They talked about stars, about Danny's obsession with dinosaurs, about the way rain sounded different on glass versus on grass. He never pushed. He never pried. He simply showed up, and the consistency of that and the absolute reliable warmth of it began to quietly dissolve something in the child that months of therapy had not touched. Elena discovered it by accident 3 weeks later, standing in the hallway at midnight, unable to sleep. She saw her daughter laughing, actually laughing, at something the janitor had said. It stopped her cold. She stood there in her silk robe, worth more than Marcus earned in a month, watching this man in worn coveralls make her daughter feel safe, and she felt something she hadn't felt in 2 years. Shame at what she had forgotten to give, and gratitude towards someone who gave it freely. She called him into her office the next morning. He came nervously, holding his employee badge like it might be taken from him. She told him she'd seen them the night before. He apologized immediately, said it wouldn't happen again, said he understood if she wanted him reassigned. Elena looked at this man, this tired, decent, quietly strong man, and said, "I want to offer you a different job." She created a role. Household manager, she called it publicly. Privately, she knew what she was really hiring. Someone who had already done the job without being asked, without being paid, without needing recognition. Marcus brought Danny over on Sundays. Sophie and Danny argued about dinosaurs and then became inseparable. Elena started coming home for dinner. The penthouse slowly stopped being cold. It was not a fairy tale. Marcus still worried about money. Elena still struggled to open up. But something had shifted, irreversibly, gently, permanently, in all of them. The man who came to clean the floors had quietly cleaned out the grief instead, one honest moment at a time, asking nothing in return except the chance to show up. And in a world that constantly measures worth by title and wealth, he reminded one very powerful woman that the most important things, presence, patience, love, have never once appeared on any resume. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories, where we believe that the most extraordinary people are often the ones the world overlooks.